The sky above Krasnofor was always a sick yellow, like a bruise that never healed. It was a place where broken machines, forgotten tech, and unwanted lives were thrown away. Traders came from every corner of the galaxy to find cheap goods or cheaper people. At the edge of the trading pit, behind a row of rusted stalls, there was a glass box. It wasn't very large, just enough for one person to sit inside, legs folded, arms wrapped around their body. Inside the box sat a girl. Her skin was soft blue, glowing faintly under the dirty light. Her hair, silver and tangled, reached down to her waist. She wore a thin, torn robe. Her left leg ended at the knee. No prosthetic, just old bandages soaked in time. Her eyes were large and sharp, one of them glowing faint purple, the other dim, almost lifeless. A flickering sign above her read, "For SALE alien female. Needs prosthetic 300 credits or best offer." She didn't move, didn't cry, didn't speak. People passed by. Some laughed. Some looked with pity, others with disgust. "She's useless," one man said. "Can't even stand," a woman whispered. "Probably diseased," said another. No one placed a bid. The auctioneer, a heavy-bellied Varnaxian with yellow tusks, barked loudly, "Cheap girl. Good for cleaning, or maybe just decoration." Still, no one stopped. The girl remained silent. Her eyes followed no one. She was not hoping for rescue. She had already accepted her fate. Until he came. A man walked through the crowd, tall, human, in a worn-out coat. His face was half covered by a hood, boots coated in dust from long travel. He didn't look around. He didn't laugh. He walked straight to the box and stood still. The girl finally moved, just her eyes. She looked at him. He looked back. They stared at each other for a long time. The noise of the market faded. Everything else disappeared. The human placed one hand on the glass. "How much?" he asked. The auctioneer blinked, confused. "What? For her? How much?" The Varnaxian smirked. "She's not worth the bandage on her leg." "Then name your price." The crowd quieted. Someone whispered, "Is he serious?" The auctioneer laughed. 300 credits, final, no refunds. No returns, she's damaged goods. The man didn't speak. He reached into his coat and pulled out a worn chip. He dropped it into the pay slot without blinking. The gate clicked open with a heavy buzz. The girl still didn't move. He stepped forward and crouched beside her. "Can you walk?" She shook her head slowly. "Will you come with me?" he asked. She didn't answer at first. Then, in a soft, broken voice, she said, "Why?" "Because no one should be in a box." He offered his hand. She stared at it. Her fingers trembled. Slowly, carefully, she reached out and touched him. He helped her up. She leaned against him, weak, her face close to his chest. Everyone watched. No one said a word. The auctioneer called out, "She's yours now. No returns." The man didn't look back. As they walked away, the girl whispered, "You don't know who I am." "I don't need to," he said. "Not yet." They disappeared into the dusty alleyways of Krasnofor. Two broken souls, one forgotten, the other hiding something deeper. What the man didn't know was this: the girl he just bought wasn't just any alien. She was the last daughter of a fallen house. A secret that could bring war or salvation. But for now, she was just a girl with one leg and no hope. And he was the only one who saw her as more than a thing to be sold. The man didn't speak as they walked. He kept one arm wrapped around her, careful but firm, like holding something fragile. The girl limped, leaning against him, her face pale and tired. Every step made her wince, but she didn't complain. They left the market behind, past the noisy food stalls, past the drunks, past the scavengers digging through metal piles. He didn't take her to a clinic. He didn't ask questions. He walked to the far edge of the outpost where the buildings turned. Into shadows, and the noise became silence. At the end of a long alley stood a rusted door. He tapped twice. The scanner lit up, scanned his eye, and clicked open. Inside was not a house. It was a ship, old, dirty, but still alive. "Welcome to home," he said. The girl looked around. The ship was cramped. Tools and wires hung from the ceiling. There were crates instead of furniture. A small heater buzzed in the corner, and the floor creaked with every step. He helped her sit on a makeshift bench. Then he knelt and gently removed the dirty bandage from her leg. She tensed but didn't stop him. "You need a real med unit," he said. "I don't have credits," she replied. "I didn't ask for credits," he said, standing. "I asked if it hurt." She looked away. "Not anymore. I stopped feeling it weeks ago." He pulled a small kit from a drawer. It wasn't much: old gauze, pain spray, a sewing needle sterilized with fire. Still, he worked carefully, cleaned her wound, wrapped it new. She watched him in silence, her face unreadable. When he finished, he gave her a protein cube and a flask of clean water. She held both like they were treasure. "Why did you buy me?" she asked at last. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "I've seen war," he said. "I've seen what people do to the weak. And you think I'm weak? I think you're still breathing." That made her blink. A pause, then a whisper. "My name is Lyra." He nodded. "Call me Kale." Silence filled the space between them. Not heavy, not cold, just quiet. Safe, but safety on Krusna 4 never lasted long. A sharp knock hit the outside hull. Kale's eyes sharpened. He motioned for her to stay quiet and drew a small blaster from beneath the bench. Another knock. "Kale!" A voice shouted from outside. "You bought her, didn't you?" He didn't answer. "She's not just some broken thing," the voice said. "She's marked. You know what that means?" Kale opened the door just enough to see who it was. A tall alien, skin like cracked stone, stared back. A bounty patch glowed on his chest. "I don't care what she is," Kale said calmly. "She's under my roof now." The bounty hunter grinned. "Then your roof just became a target. She's a royal defect. There's a price on her head, and not the kind you can hide from." Kale slammed the door shut. Lyra was trembling. "They found me," she whispered. "Who are they?" "My people," she said, voice tight. "Or what's left of them. They want me dead so they can erase the last bloodline." Kale sat back down. "You're not going to die." Tears formed in her eyes. "You don't understand. I'm not worth saving. My family sold planets. They enslaved others. I was born into poison." He leaned closer, voice low but steady. "Then maybe you get to choose who you become now. Not them. You." She stared at him, shocked. "No one's ever said that to me." Kale stood. "Get some rest. We move at dawn." "Move? Where?" "Someplace they won't find us, and maybe someplace you get a leg." As he walked to the control room, Lyra sat back against the bench, holding the blanket he had handed her. No one had ever given her warmth without a price. But Kale might be different. And outside, in the shadows of Krusna 4, the hunter was already making calls. The chase had begun. Kale didn't sleep that night. While Lyra lay curled under a thin blanket, breathing slowly for the first time in weeks, he was in the cockpit, watching the screens. Radar silent, heat sensors calm. But he didn't trust peace, not here. He had seen what a bounty could do to a man. And hers wasn't just any bounty. It was royal blood money. When the sunless morning came, Kale started up the engines. The old ship rumbled like it hadn't moved in years. Dust fell from the ceiling. Lights flickered. But it worked. Lyra limped in from the back, her eyes wide. "We're leaving?" Kale nodded. "The station won't be safe anymore." She looked down. "Because of me." "No," he said. "Because of them." He handed her a small cum tablet. On it, she saw her own face, hollow-eyed, injured, hair a tangled mess. Above it was a glowing red word. Wanted. The bounty read, Princess Lyra Zinthari, defector. Last of the House Zinthari. Status, kill on sight. Reward, 100,000 credits, proof of death required. Lyra's fingers trembled. You knew? She whispered. Kale stared at her. Not your name. But I knew you were running. She slowly sat down. I didn't want to be a princess. My family ruled with fire. They burned cities to keep power. When I refused the throne, they branded me a traitor. And now they want you dead to erase the shame. Lyra nodded. They said no broken girl could carry royal blood. So they took my leg. Left me in the dirt. I crawled for 2 days before someone threw me in that box. Kale didn't speak. His hands moved across the controls, guiding the ship upward, breaking through the low fog that choked Krasnofor's skies. Where are we going? She asked. Outpost 9. I know a man who builds limbs. Old war tech, not clean, but it works. Her voice was soft. Why are you helping me? Kale stared into space, then answered, because I once left someone behind. I swore I wouldn't. Do it again. Lyra looked at him for a long time. There was pain in his voice, but also something else. Guilt, regret. She leaned back, silent, as the stars came into view. Far behind them, in a cold room filled with smoke and metal, the bounty. Hunter growled. She's gone, he said into the transmitter. The human took her. A dark voice replied, and yet you breathe? She's not worth dying for. Let them run, I'll follow. You do not follow, the voice said. You hunt, or you die next. The hunter clenched his fist and slammed it against the wall. Fine, I'll bring her back. Piece by piece, if I have to. On Kale's ship, night returned as they drifted into deep space. Lyra sat in the small sleeping chamber, staring at the stars. Kale entered with a metal box. He placed it in front of her. What is it? She asked. A memory kit. Inside were broken medals, an old photo of a girl with dark hair, and a torn uniform, a patch read, Vanguard Unit, Earthline 17. That was your daughter, Lyra said quietly. Kale froze. She's gone, he said simply. I'm sorry. He nodded. She believed in helping people, even when the world gave her nothing. Lyra reached out and touched the patch. She would have hated who I was. Kale looked at her. Maybe, but she would have saved you anyway. For a while there was only silence. Then the warning light blinked. Incoming vessel detected. Kale's heart pounded. Hold on. He rushed to the controls. A black ship was chasing them. No ID, no beacon. A hunter's vessel. They found us, he whispered. Lyra grabbed the edge of the seat. Can we run? No, but we can crash. What? Kale flipped the controls. I'm dropping us onto the next planet. It's uncharted. Cold, but we'll lose them in the storm. You sure? Nope, he said. But it's better than waiting to die in the sky. He pressed the emergency descent. The ship shook violently. Alarms screamed. Outside the window, a frozen planet appeared, covered in thick clouds and mountains of ice. As the ship dived into the storm, Lyra held tightly to her seat, her voice steady for the first time. If we survive this, Kale. I'll tell you what my name really means. The ship hit the frozen planet like a falling star. Ice split beneath the weight. Fire streaked across the white sky. The hull groaned and cracked as metal screamed against rock. Inside, Kale pulled hard on the controls, trying to steer. Lyra gripped the safety bar so tightly her knuckles turned white-blue. Then, impact. Everything went black. Kale opened his eyes to silence. Smoke curled around the cracked cockpit. Red lights blinked in warning. Sparks popped from broken panels. Lyra? He CROAKED. No answer. He forced himself up, his ribs aching, blood on his lip. He stumbled through the wrecked hallway, calling again. Lyra. He found her near the cargo hold, lying in a corner. Hey, he said, kneeling beside her. Her eyes fluttered open. She was bruised, her cheek cut, but alive, still breathing. She whispered. Cale smiled with relief. Told you we'd survive. You didn't sound sure, she muttered. He helped her sit up, wrapping a heat blanket around her shoulders. Outside, snow hit the windows. Thick, fast, like a wall of white. The storm had swallowed the ship. We'll freeze if we stay here, Cale said. The reactor's failing. Lyra pointed toward the rear bay. Storage. There's a scout tent in there. Emergency gear. Cale nodded. Stay here. I'll grab it. He moved fast, coughing from the smoke. Half the supplies were crushed. He found the tent, a med pack, some nutrient rations, and a small heat core barely. Enough for 2 people. When he returned, she was already trying to stand. You're injured, he said. I don't want to die sitting down, she replied. Cale gave her a look, then helped her up. They moved slowly, crawling through the wreckage, out the side hatch and into the storm. The cold hit like knives. Wind howled. Snow stung their faces. Cale pitched the tent under the side of a rocky hill, using parts of the ship's broken wing as cover. Inside it was small and dark, but it blocked the wind. He activated the heat core. A soft glow filled the space. They sat close, wrapped in the same blanket, hands trembling. Lyra looked at him and said, I remember this cold. You've been here before? She nodded. My father once dropped prisoners here to freeze. I watched from the ship as they begged. Cale was quiet. I was 12, she said. And I did nothing, just watched. He looked at her. Then maybe this planet wants to see who you've become. Lyra blinked, her eyes filling. I'm not a good person, Cale. He gently pulled the blanket tighter around her. You're not the person they say you are either. For a moment, the wind was the only sound. Then a low beep came from Cale's wrist screen. His face darkened. What is it? Lyra asked. Tracked, he said. The crash pinged a signal. They'll find us in hours. She leaned her head back. Then we'll die here. No, Cale said firmly. We're not dying today. He opened the med pack and pulled out a metal injector. This is for pain, he said, holding it up. But it'll also let you walk. She stared at the injector. It hurts. Yeah, but it works. She took a breath and nodded. He injected it into her thigh, and she screamed, but only for a second. Then, slowly she moved her leg. I can stand, she said, shocked. Not for long, Cale warned, but long enough to run. Where? There's a cave network nearby, he said. Old mining site. If we reach it before nightfall, we might survive. She reached for the gear, her hands still shaking. Then what are we waiting for? Cale smiled. You're tougher than you look. And you're softer than you act, she said. They stepped out into the storm again, side by side. The cold still bit. The snow still fell. But now they had each other. Behind them, deep in the wreckage, a small red light blinked a tracker. Active and blinking faster. And miles away, above the planet. The hunter's ship entered orbit. The storm chased them across the frozen plain like a hungry beast. Snow blinded their path, wind howled in their ears, and every step felt heavier than the last. Lyra stumbled, gasping. Her leg was shaking again. Cale caught her before she fell. Hold on, we're close. She looked up at him. I don't know how much longer I can walk. Then I'll carry you. He scooped her up without waiting for a reply. She didn't argue. The cold had already turned her lips pale. Her hands were wrapped around his neck, her breath shallow. Finally, he saw a dark stone rising from the snow, a narrow opening like a mouth frozen mid-scream. The cave. He ducked inside, his body shielding Lyra from the cold wind. The silence was sudden, like the storm had been shut out behind them. The cave was dark, but dry, warmer, safer. He set her down gently and lit a flare. The light revealed tall stone walls, ancient carvings barely visible. Long ago, this place had been part of a mining site. Abandoned now. Forgotten. Kale set the heater core in the center and turned it on. Warmth slowly filled the small space. Lyra leaned against the wall, her breath returning. You always know where to go? She asked softly. Only when I'm running, Kale said. She gave him a tired smile. Then you're good at it. They sat in silence for a while, both too tired to speak. The sound of dripping water echoed from deeper within the cave. Then Lyra said, Do you want to know what my name means? Kale looked at her. In Old Zenthari, it means shattered flame. My mother gave it to me. She said it was a warning beautiful things break. Kale shook his head. She was wrong. Broken doesn't mean useless. She looked at him with something soft in her eyes. I believe that now. A sudden noise cut the moment. Short crunch of boots. Snow, just outside. Kale's head snapped toward the entrance. He moved fast, grabbing his blaster, killing the light, covering the heater. Lyra pressed herself against the cave wall, heart pounding. They waited. The sound came again. Closer. Then, a voice, deep, cold, familiar. Princess. You should have stayed in the box. The hunter. Kale took aim, crouching low. He didn't breathe. Footsteps echoed. Shadows stretched along the cave wall. Human, the voice said. You think you're brave. You're just temporary. Kale narrowed his eyes. You talk too much. He fired. The blast lit the cave, hit the wall. Too slow. The hunter rolled in from the side, fired back. The bolt missed Kale's head by inches. He ducked behind a stone column. The cave echoed with fire and stone. Lyra crawled deeper into the tunnel. Her fingers scraped the wall, searching in the dark. The hunter advanced, eyes glowing red through his visor. Give her to me, and I'll make your death quick. Kale gritted his teeth. Try me. He fired again, this time hitting the hunter's shoulder. The bounty hunter growled, stumbling. Suddenly dashed behind the hunter. A light flashed. Lyra stood, holding a mining torch she'd found in the tunnel. Her hand was shaking, but her eyes were steady. Let him go, she said. The hunter turned, laughing. You? She ignited the torch. The flame roared out. She didn't need to fight. She just needed a distraction. Kale used that moment, jumped from cover, tackled the hunter, and slammed him into the rock. The two fought, trading blows. Kale wasn't stronger, but he was faster, more desperate. He reached for the hunter's weapon, twisted it free, and fired. The hunter dropped. Silence. Kale stood over the body, chest heaving. Lyra lowered the torch. You okay? He asked her. She nodded slowly. I didn't run. No, Kale said. You didn't. Outside, the storm finally began to die. But inside the cave, something new was being born. Not just survival, not just trust, something stronger. The cave was quiet now. The bounty hunter's body lay cold on the stone floor. His weapon, still warm from the last shot, rested beside him. Kale crouched beside the body, checking for any hidden trackers. Lyra watched in silence, her hands still, trembling from the fire she had held just minutes ago. She had never killed before. Not with fire. Not with courage. Now she had. Kale stood up, brushing ash from his coat. We have to leave. More will come. Lyra nodded, but her eyes were distant. Her body was in the cave, but her mind was somewhere else. You said we were going to find a new leg, she whispered. Kale glanced at her. We will. No, she said, shaking her head slowly. I don't mean that. I mean, you were trying to fix something. I think I need to fix something too. He said nothing, just waited. She reached into the pocket of her robe and pulled out a small silver disc no bigger than her palm. Kale frowned. What's that? A blood key, she said. She tapped it gently, and a soft blue light glowed from the center. This was hidden in my body, a long time ago. My mother placed it there before she died. It holds the coordinates to a vault." Cale raised an eyebrow. "A vault? Not of money," Lyra said. "Something worse." She paused, her voice dry. "It's a weapon." Cale's eyes narrowed. She continued, "A bioweapon. Something my father created during the last Civil War. It was too dangerous even for him, so my mother stole it. She sealed it away. But she gave me the key." "Why you?" Cale asked softly. "Because I was supposed to destroy it," she said. "Or protect it if I couldn't. But I ran. I chose to run." Cale looked at the glowing disc. "That's why the bounties so high," she nodded. "They don't care about me. They want the vault." Cale sat down, rubbing his face. "If this gets into the wrong hands, it could kill planets," she finished. He looked at her, eyes hard. "You should have told me." "I was ashamed," she whispered. "I thought if I became worthless, if I disappeared, no one would come for it. But they did." She looked up. "So what do I do now?" Cale leaned back against the stone. "You stop running." She stared at him. He continued, "We go to the vault. We destroy what's inside. Together. You'd come with me. Someone has to make sure. You don't blow up the galaxy by accident." She smiled, just a little. "You're not what I expected, Cale." "And you're more than I thought," he replied. She held out the blood key. "Then let's finish this." He took it carefully, studying the light. "Where is it?" Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Earth." Cale blinked. "Earth? My Earth?" "The vault was hidden in one of the old colonies your people abandoned after the wars." He stood up. "Then we better start moving. Because once they find out where you're headed, they'll throw everything at us." Lyra grabbed his hand. "Cale, if I don't survive this—" "You will," he said firmly. "But if I don't," she continued, "promise me you'll finish what I started." He looked her in the eyes. "Only if you promise not to die." They stood there in silence, the heat core flickering beside them, shadows dancing on the stone walls. Outside, the sky was starting to clear. The storm had passed, but ahead of them, a much bigger storm was waiting. Earth was no longer blue. From orbit, it looked old, scarred, burned, forgotten. The planet had survived too many wars, too many losses. What remained was ash, dust, and buried memories. Cale's ship broke through the thick clouds and descended toward the southern wastes where once a proud colony had stood. Now it was a wasteland of black soil and broken towers. "This is the place," Lyra whispered. Her fingers gripped the edge of her seat. She was pale, her body still weak, her missing leg wrapped tight in new synthetic mesh from an old field. Kit, but her eyes, they were strong now, clear. Cale piloted the ship carefully between two jagged cliffs. Below, hidden under the dirt and metal, was a bunker. The vault. As they landed, the scanner beeped. Multiple vessels approaching. Cale glanced at Lyra. "They followed us," she nodded. "We don't have time. We have to destroy it now." They rushed from the ship and crossed the dusty field toward a large steel door half buried in the ground. Lyra pulled the glowing blood key from her pocket. As it touched the metal panel, the door hissed, then slid open with a loud groan. They stepped inside. The air was stale, heavy with the scent of rot and time. Lights flickered. Warning sirens flashed red. The hallways were filled with old crates. And shattered tech. At the end was a round chamber, covered in glass tubes filled with dark liquid. And in the center, floating in a chamber of its own, was the weapon. It looked like a sphere of smoke and metal, pulsing with strange energy. Lyra stepped forward. "That was what my father built. A virus coded to rewrite DNA. It doesn't just kill, it erases species." Cale looked sick. "And your mother saved it from him?" "She stole it and hid it here. She died protecting this secret." Cale turned to her. "Then let's finish it." But before they could move, the sound of boots echoed through the halls. The bounty hunters were here. Cale grabbed Lyra's arm. and pulled her behind a crate. Shots rang out, bright plasma blasts lighting up the room. "We're pinned," Kale said. Lyra held the blood key in her hand, staring at the glass chamber. "I can overload it. If I insert the key and reroute the vault will self-destruct. You'll die too." She looked at him. "So will they." Kale grabbed her face gently. "We do this together." "No," she said. "You have to survive. You're the one who can carry the truth. I was raised in a palace of monsters. You were forged in fire and regret. The galaxy will believe you." "I won't leave you again," he said, voice cracking. She kissed his cheek. "You didn't leave me. You saw me." Kale's eyes burned with tears. "Promise me, this is worth it." She smiled. "For the first time in my life, I know it is." She ran, dodging fire. She slid across the floor, slammed the blood key into the control port, and smashed the override button. The lights turned red. SEL Fistruct initiated. Kale screamed her name, but she just looked back and nodded. "Go," she mouthed. He ran, through the halls, through fire, through pain. He reached the surface as the ground rumbled beneath him. He jumped into the ship, slammed the hatch closed, and launched into the sky just as the vault exploded. The earth cracked. Fire burst through the clouds. And with it, Lyra was gone. Days later, Kale stood before a small memorial stone on a green world far from war. It read, "Shattered flame, eternal light." Children played nearby. Refugees she once saved without ever knowing. Kale looked up at the stars. "She gave everything," he whispered, "to save people who never knew her name." Then he turned and walked toward the future, carrying her story in his heart. She had been sold for nothing, forgotten, broken. But in the end, she saved a galaxy.